1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
I've paid my dues, time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my shadows and kicked in my face, but I've come through. And I need to go.
Of the world, Andy. We are the champions of the world. We are indeed. Shout out to the Seattle Seahawks. You know, I know it's hard, Andy. But I try to tell you to protect your peace. I try to tell you just come on over to the dark side. You refused.
The dark side made the game boring.
The dark side handled their business, is what the dark side did. And for those who don't know what you're talking about, we're talking about the Super Bowl, where the Seattle Seahawks prevailed, as I predicted. And the dark side is the defense of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I talked about how they were no Legion of Boom last week, but they handled their business.
They definitely carried on that defensive legacy.
Handled their business. So I wasn't even going to talk about the game today. I'm in my, pink shirt and red sweater.
What's today?
I was up here all prepared, actually, to talk about just Valentine's Day. Okay. I didn't talk about Valentine's Day, Black History Month. Mm-hmm. It's Valentine's Day. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And then I realized that it is, in fact, Black Love Day.
Really? I thought that was Valentine's Day.
That February 3rd, I think it's every day. It's every day of the year. It's like Black History is 365. Black Love Day is 365. However, apparently, February 13th is Black Love Day. And so here we are.
Wow.
Celebrating Black History Month, celebrating Black Love Day, preparing for Valentine's Day, however you plan to celebrate it or not. Or not. And that's where we are, Andy. But I didn't want to talk about the game because I know that, there are feelings on all sides. I did not go to the parade. You asked me if I went to the parade. I was going to go to the parade, but then I was like, I'm not really going to go stand around with 1 million people.
You should have, though.
I know I should have. But I did want to get your thoughts on the Bad Bunny performance. So, we were talking last week, too, about how the Super Bowl halftime performance has become a thing, right? Where people tune in just for the halftime performance. Right. We had Kendrick last year. It was fantastic. This year, everyone was, going crazy over the announcement of Bad Bunny. And, of course, that decision, that performance came in the middle of, obviously, the intensification of ICE raids in immigrant communities and in Black communities, non-immigrant Black communities across the country. So there was a lot of weight on it. Right. Like, I felt like people last week you were like, he should perform on a block of ice. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wondered about your thoughts on the performance. There was no block of ice, but there was lots of historical, allusions, right? There was, lots of cameos, some unexpected, right? So what did you think? What did you think of the performance?
probably gonna get a little bit of pushback. I thought it was a little bit boring, but not because I didn't understand the language, not because I wasn't too familiar with the music. I actually was kind of familiar with the first song that he performed or whatnot.
Yeah.
I did think seeing Ricky Martin was dope.
Yeah, that was crazy.
You know,
I wasn't even paying attention. My daughter was like, "Oh my God, that's Ricky Martin!"
Right. I thought Cardi was gonna come out because I know they got a song.
Yeah, so did I.
But I guess she has her own issues going on and whatnot.
Indeed.
But thank God for the internet. I'll just go ahead and say that because, going on Twitter, going on Facebook, going on Instagram, there was a lot of people who are, of Puerto Rican descent who was able to kind of, maybe break down some of the messaging that was going on. And it kind of felt like, the Kendrick performance for those who didn't understand the symbolism with that. So I appreciated what he did. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting maybe something a little bit more aggressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was hoping for that block of ice. I was a little bit disappointed, but I will say that I do like the fact that he decided to choose love.
Yeah.
In the midst of hate, he was like, you know what? We're all American. We're gonna unify. Right. I'm gonna push love. I'm not gonna push hate.
Right. So we're talking about the Bad Bunny performance at the Super Bowl, and I feel like I felt a little bit like you. I'm not real familiar with his music. My kids are, so they were all into it.
Okay.
But I was a little bit. I felt like it was lower key than I thought it would be. Like I didn't jump up and start dancing, right? But I did feel like there was sort of the opening in the sugarcane fields, right? Talking about sort of opening with enslavement, right? And folks working the sugarcane fields. There was the New York scene, which I lived in New York for a long time, so that was like, oh, okay. There was the commentary on the power grid, right, with the guys in the polls, right, and how messed up the power grid is in Puerto Rico because of privatization, right? So I thought that there were parts that I could get and I was also really trying to pay a lot of attention. I didn't see Pedro Pascal at first, and then I realized that he was in there. So there was a lot of things hidden in there. I'm gonna have to say, I was like, is that Lady Gaga? Like, what
I didn't recognize her at first either.
So I thought it was great, but it was, I think, partly because I'm not that familiar with his music. It felt a little bit, I was gonna say low energy, but not quite. Like I wasn't jumping up out of my seat. I'm sure it was higher energy in the stadium itself.
Oh yeah.
But it meant something, and there was a lot that people could really grab onto. A lot of the things that he said, I think the whole we are all the Americas, right? 100%. And I think all the flags and the sort of love over everything.
And it was an actual wedding too.
And there was an actual wedding. So so my daughter was like, "You think they really got married?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then she looked it up and she was like, "They're married." So I thought all of that was great. And then obviously the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. So there you go.
Did you tune into TPUSA? Did you go on YouTube just to see?
No, I didn't even think that I thought they had pulled it down. I didn't even think the thing was happening because why? Because for what? And this was the alternative, the little right-wing people in the country, folks, I think tried to do a little, they were mad about Bad Bunny. They tried to do their little alternative halftime Super Bowl show with Kid Rock in jorts. The man was wearing carpenter jean shorts.
And it was pre-taped, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was what you would have expected it to be. But all that being said, right? We've moved on. I moved on, Andy. I'm past the Super Bowl. This weekend we have another sports extravaganza right here in Los Angeles. So I think everybody knows that it is NBA All-Star Weekend. I gotta say, I'm not that into it. But
I don't think anybody's into it, to be honest with you.
I don't think I've watched one in years because when the score is 175 to 162, it's not really worth watching. But I do have a little Black History Month basketball related story to share, and so I'm going to do that. And it's this. Andy, did you know that today in Black history, the first Black pro basketball team was chartered in 1923?
No, I did not.
It was the first Black-owned and all-Black professional men's basketball team. incorporated today. The team was called the Renaissance,
Nice.
and it became one of the dominant teams of the 1920s and 1930s. It competed against all white teams. They won 88 consecutive games
Whoa.
in the 1932 and 1933 season. 88 consecutive games.
Okay.
And some of the team members, like William Pop Gates and Charles Tarzan Cooper, went on to become Hall of Famers. And in 1963, the entire Renaissance team was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. So
Nice.
I'm hoping that they mention that
Wow.
at some point during this NBA All-Star weekend, given that it is Black History Month, that they find some little important historical facts that don't always come to the forefront, and lift those up. Right, tonight is the HBCU Classic game featuring Hampton University and North Carolina A&T. So they have this. They can talk about it there. They can talk about it tomorrow in the 3-point or in the slam dunk competition. Yeah. So anyway, that's my Black History Month fact for folks. We'll talk a little bit more maybe about Black History Month later. But we have a lot to talk about. Later in the show, we're going to be joined by Tia Oso and Diamond Hardin, who are with Strategy Media 2070. We're going to talk about the importance of reporting and telling Black stories all the time, but especially in a moment like this. We saw Don Lemon have his day in court today, so maybe we'll touch on that a little bit. And coming up next, we're going to be talking with the new president and CEO of Color of Change, Nadine Smith, about 2 dangerous bills moving through the Congress that could severely limit our access to the ballot box. We talked about this a little bit last week with Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP. And later in the hour, we're going to be talking to Aisha Brown, the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local Action, about the attacks on voting rights, but also the implications for the state. So we have a lot to talk about today on the Black Pack. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
It's tax time, y'all. If you want to file free, this next one's for you.
Now taxes is so free. Tax free edition only. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple form 1040 returns only. Now this is tax.
Love that jam. Up next, commercials.
Intuit TurboTax Free Edition. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, Student Loan Interest, and Schedule 1A.
What's up? What's up? What's up? We got to laugh the pain away.
Hey, KBLA delegation, happy Black History Month. Around here, we celebrate our culture, our community, and our contributions daily. But this year, as we observe the 100th anniversary of Black History Month celebrations, we're excited about our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, honoring comedy greats. On Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum in downtown LA, we're toasting D.L. Hughley, Melanie Camacho, Earthquake, Munell, Dion Cole, and Martin Lawrence with a surprise guest appearance. A limited number of individual tickets for the luncheon remain, so now would be a good time to head to KBLA1580.com to secure one for yourself. That's KBLA1580.com. A little laughter goes a long way, especially in times like fees. So come, join us for our annual KBLA Talk 1580 Black History Month Luncheon, Thursday, February 26th at the Grammy Museum. Again, tickets are available right now at KBLA1580.com.
Well, I hang around my boy. He's been married for 6 years. Videotaped his wedding day, never watched it. Now and every day he watch it every day, but he watch it in reverse. Because he said he loves seeing himself take that ring back off of that finger. Walking back down that aisle, just waving at her ugly mother down the church. Getting back in the limo, back at the bachelor party. Look how happy I was.
KBLA Talk 1580 thanks LA City Council members Curran D. Price Jr. and Heather Hutt for being the presenting sponsors at this year's Black History Month Luncheon. Honoring excellence, resilience, and achievement, we're KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580, and joining us now to talk about recent anti-democracy packages that are moving through the United States Congress is Nadine Smith, President and CEO of Color of Change. Welcome, Nadine.
Thank you. Glad to be on the show.
I'm glad that you're here too. And let me just say, while you're here in front of all of the listeners and during Black History Month for accountability purposes, that I owe you a phone call. And I
wasn't going to raise it, but
it is on my mind. Know that. I'm holding myself accountable.
All good
here. So talk to us a little bit. So you recently transitioned to the leadership of Color of Change. So congratulations on that. And what a time, right, to be taking on the helm of such a critical organization right now. How have you all been navigating this moment? Just a lot, right? While you're having organizational transition as well as all that's going on in the country.
Well, I will say it this way. This is where I want to be in this fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
Color of Change is celebrating 20 years. 20 years of being, the largest online racial justice organization. It grew out of the aftermath of Katrina and has been sort of a nimble voice shaping the conversation, unafraid of challenging power in whatever way it applies pressure to us. And right now, that is exactly the lane that this movement needs. And so I'm really proud to be joining Color of Change. This is my fifth week, the end of my fifth week. So it has been quite a time.
It's been momentous.
But I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot moving, but one of the things that we've been tracking closely, and I know that you all have been too, is these two bills that are moving in Congress right now. One is the so-called SAVE Act, or Save America Act, even worse. And the other is called the MEGA Act, so the Make Elections Great Again Act. So these are two election bills that were introduced by Republicans sort of in response to Trump calling for making all kinds of claims around voter fraud that are untrue, calling for national elections. But let me I'm a level set for 1 second, Nadine, just for listeners who haven't heard much about these two bills. So just the first one, the Save America Act, claims that its goal is to reduce the amount of non-citizen voter fraud, which only accounts for about 0.04% of voter verification cases, so basically non-existent. Under this new policy, an ID, just your regular ID that you would use, is not enough to register. And that voters would need to have a birth certificate, a passport, a certificate of citizenship or naturalization. And in addition, most tribal IDs would not be a valid form of ID, which is also crazy. And in addition to that, if a person has a name change, let's say you got married and changed your name, they would need a third form of identification, such as a marriage license, in order to prove their identity. The MEGA Act, right, which is the Make Elections Great Again Act would require states to purge their voter rolls every 30 days. It would require you to bring proof of citizenship to the polls. So proof of citizenship, not just to vote, but to the polls. And it would restrict absentee voting, and it would eliminate automatic mail voting, which is what we do here in California, what they do in Washington State, what they do in Colorado, and other states. Okay, so that's the level set. I wonder if you could just talk to us a little bit about what this means. Like, what are the stakes, right, of this legislation? The Mega Act was in committee, I think, last week. The House actually passed the SAVE Act this week, and the Senate is prepared to vote on it next week. What are the implications for our communities if the SAVE Act passes in the Senate next week?
Yeah, well, the first thing I should do is say that I'm from Florida, the laboratory in which these ideas are tested. This is simply the reverse engineering of the pathways to the black vote. They are simply saying, what can we do that will throttle the ability of black people to cast their ballots? So it is not an accident that it is asking, this is modern day poll tax,
right?
To require people functionally to get a passport, to go through the process. It's a $130 application fee, $35 execution fee, $15 for your passport photo, and then if you want to expedite it because the election is around the corner, that's $60 more. It is functionally a poll tax. Yeah. And, when people talk about that we're sort of living in a post-Reconstruction era, these are the same tactics. These are the same strategies. And so we saw them using this because they said, what can we do to make it harder? Right. Let's restrict voting. And we don't have to imagine. We're already seeing what is happening in states that have adopted this. I think it was yesterday in North Carolina, AT&T, the nation's largest HBCU, ended up marching to the courthouse after being told they don't get to vote on campus. They were told, students don't actually vote, so I think they had to walk half an hour away and stand in long lines.
Yep.
So everything is about putting an obstacle. And the really twisted thing that they do is they invent a problem that doesn't exist to solve it with a tool that makes it harder for people to access the political process.
Yeah, and I'm gonna repeat the thing that you just said because it's so important. And I don't know if people know this or saw any of the videos on social media today about the students at North Carolina A&T having their poll taken away from their campus, and they rallied, right, in a sense, and marched, right, 30 minutes to the polling place because that's how far it is now for them to be able to vote. That's not a thing that should have happened, right? They should not have had to walk 30 minutes to a polling place when they had a polling site right there on their campus. So one of the things about that I think it's, when folks think about, so who is this going to impact, right? Who would something like the SAVE Act actually impact? And the reality is that it impacts all of us, right? So upwards of 20 million voters will be impacted because people don't have access to the documents that you were just laying out, which means the thing that you just said, people have to pay for them, and that is a poll tax. So when and
there's another piece, there was another piece that you touched on that I really want the penny to drop for people.
Yeah.
But if you got married and you changed your last name, you may have lost your right to vote because of this.
Right.
Because the additional barriers to prove that you are who you were when you were born, what was on your birth certificate.
Right.
And this mindset absolutely disproportionately will impact women. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to say women can't vote, but you are creating a barrier for married women to vote. You're creating a barrier for anyone who was born in circumstances where they might not have a birth certificate. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of older black folks born in circumstances where they don't have birth certificates. So they literally, we saw it in North Carolina when the courts basically said, you just ask yourself what would need to be in place to stop black people from voting, and then you just pass laws that would achieve that. And this is that taken to the federal level.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who aren't paying attention, who are only thinking of it through one or two lenses, who don't realize that this is going to impact their ability to vote, because it doesn't recognize, like in Florida, for example, they would let you use your NRA card, but not your student ID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not subtle. It's not subtle what they're up to.
That's right. And I think that's sort of the thing, right? Student ID, tribal ID. I'm a Native American, and y'all are telling me that I can't vote, right? Like, I feel like if my ancestors' names appear in the 1860 census, then you shouldn't be questioning my ability to vote. And you can go find that out yourself. Like, I don't need to prove that. 9% of eligible voters don't have access to any document to prove their citizenship. 52% of eligible voters don't have a current passport. 11% of voters don't have access to a birth certificate. These are the people that you are talking about, right? Folks that just simply don't have access. But I know that there is a lot going on right now, right? There's a full, range of issues that we are tracking, that you all are tracking. And so I wanted to ask you, what other issues, right, is Color of Change tracking in this moment? And how are you all engaging your membership and Black communities in general? Because I think that there's a lot coming at us, but there's also a lot that folks can do.
There is a lot that people can do, and I think that I want to really say to folks, part of the reason for lifting up the North Carolina students isn't that what they had to do was fair or just, but it is about the resilience and the courage in our community in moments like this.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this post-Reconstruction. We know that there will be obstacles that we have to overcome. Among the things that Color of Change is doing and gearing up for, not only are these bad bills moving through the legislature, but we're all waiting for the Supreme Court to rule in a case that would have wide-ranging implications for the Black vote. And that ruling is going to come down any day now.
Yeah.
And so we're braced for that as well. So so we're ringing the alarm bell, but we're also pointing to the places where people are pushing back.
Right.
So just a couple of days ago, we had a Black History roundtable that brought, we had almost 2,000 people RSVP for it, because people are hungry for ways to engage and protect Black history, because Black history is also about the beacon forward, the things that we know and learned that we need right now, and the things that we will have to innovate for this new road ahead. Yeah. And so protecting and preserving Black history in an era where they are removing monuments, destroying existing monuments, attempting to undo museums, all of these things are all part of a full strategy. Next Wednesday, I encourage folks to check us out online, colorofchange.org. If you hit us up on Instagram, you'll see some great video from the North Carolina students. But next week, we're going to be talking about tech and the impact of tech on the Black community.
Yeah.
How, algorithmic racism.
Yep.
And one of the things that we're also talking a lot about is this. Deepfake AI it's moving by quantum leaps.
Right.
There's a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, right? And it's all AI generated just over the last few years. And it starts off with obviously AI generated, and it ends with a video exchange featuring Will Smith and a young man that was created with a single prompt, like a typed prompt.
Yep.
And it is so vivid. And the reason I bring this up is that we have to prepare for the reality that this information has been weaponized and is now enhanced by deepfake AI in a way that they will use to suppress votes, to foment violence, to capture the images of very prominent people that you trust.
Yep.
So we've got to create a new literacy around our interaction on social media, which is such a huge part of how we communicate.
Yep.
And increasingly, those platforms are in the hands of a smaller and smaller group of billionaires whose loyalty is not to democracy.
Right, and not to any of us. Okay, Nadine Smith, President and CEO of Color of Change. Huge issues you all are taking on. I'm going to ask you to come back and follow up on some of these. Colorofchange.org for people who want to get engaged. And I'm going to call you. I will return the phone call. Appreciate you joining. When we come forward, we'll be talking to Aisha Brown from Michigan State, Director of All Voting is Local. Stay with us.
More of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Nearly 24 Buddhist monks wrapped up their Walk for Peace in Annapolis on Thursday, drawing thousands to the State House. The monks began their journey in Texas in October, reached D.C. earlier this week, then continued into Maryland.
No one can do this for us. We have to do it ourselves.
They were welcomed by Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller and later had a private lunch with Black Governor Wes Moore and First Lady Dawn Moore. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon has pleaded not guilty to federal charges tied to an anti-ICE protest at a Minnesota church last month. Lemon says he was there reporting as an independent journalist. And New York's Attorney General says an investigation found Buffalo Public Schools disproportionately suspended students of color and those with disabilities. The report shows Black and Latino students were more likely to be suspended for minor issues like tardiness. The district will now be monitored for 4 years under an agreement with the AG's office. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Lincoln Heights on the northbound 5 at Broadway. A crash just popping up on the board. Now, they're not telling us which lanes yet, so keep an eye out as you come up to it, and you're going to come up slow. It's a crawl from the 10. In East LA, this is the eastbound 60 at Downey. A crash here still blocking the 2 left lanes. There is heavy traffic, and you're going to start to hit some of those brake lights starting from Whittier Boulevard as you make your way up to Downey.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and toss in a fiery crisp paired with a premium Wab beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards to ever play in the NBA, announced his retirement today after 21 seasons. Paul played 7 of those seasons with the Clippers. The 12-time All-Star is a member of the NBA's 75th anniversary team. He led the league in assists 5 times and was a 9-time selection to the All-Defense team. He'll be a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 2031. The Lakers have a decision to make. Luka Doncic was the leading vote-getter for Sunday's NBA All-Star game, but he's missed the last 4 games with a hamstring injury. It could be disastrous if Doncic tries to play Sunday and gets hurt again. Tonight at 6, you can get your Friday night sports fix with Out of Bounds in prime time. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for 60 minutes of sports chatter with some black folks flavor. You're welcome to hang out with us on the KBLA YouTube channel or hit us up at 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Let's get back to more of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire right now on KBLA Talk 1580.
Take off the slow. To make it go. Release the wiggle. Release the wiggle. Release the
You won't break my soul. 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 I'm telling everybody. Now I just fell in love.
You are listening to the Black Pack here on KBLA Talk 1580. And we are continuing our conversation about the attacks on our voting rights and our access and ability to have free and fair elections in this country with Ashia Brown, the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local Action. So, Ashia, first of all, thank you so much for reminding us of how, on a moment's notice, we might have to get hyped up. In a moment's notice, we might have to remind ourselves that they will not break our souls. So thank you both for being here and also for saying, hey, play that little piece.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So before the break, we were talking about, the impact of not just Trump's, rhetoric, right, around elections, but the actual policies that are being pushed in a number of ways, right, by his administration right now that really will have the impact, right, of diminishing, right, what we all understand to be free and fair elections in this country. But they talk about it sort of couched in, election security or election integrity. Talk a little bit about why that's a lie, but how it is that they can get away with talking about the things that they are doing, trying to secure or suing states to secure their voter rolls, moving things like the MEGA Act, those things that they are doing and more. And you certainly should talk about those things as well. But how do they get away with sort of couching it as election security or election integrity?
Sure. I think something that they like to tout is the non-citizens voting. That's something that we hear a lot, hence why we see all these acts trying to be passed to push required documentary proof of citizenship. With that being said, we know that's just not the case, and there are laws in place for when that does happen. So there are already federal laws in place if an individual attempts to vote during a federal election, they will be prosecuted, and that we have systems in place just for that. But the goal is to scare us into thinking it's something that's happening every day. Therefore, we should protect our elections more and lock it down. And the fact that they are trying to now implement more stricter ID laws, all it'll do is disenfranchise individuals that already are eligible to vote rather than keep those out that already shouldn't be voting. Because, again, there are penalties for those who are illegal and attempt to vote.
Right, because voter fraud is almost non-existent, right? And the constant refrain that somehow these things need to be in place to combat it, right, is nonsensical, right? Like an effort to, what is a solution in search of a problem, right? But when we think about, the ways in which the states are being impacted by this, we understand we have this waiting on the Supreme Court case, right, which will have real implications for congressional districts, right? Real implications for voter representation, particularly of Black folks. We know that there's the SAVE Act that is now moved to the Senate for a vote next week. We know that there's the MEGA Act. But I think what, it gets lost. I mean, we sort of, Pam Bondi sort of gave away the game, right, a couple of weeks ago when she said to Governor Tim Walz, if you want ICE to leave, give us your voter rolls, right? And that is also a thing that I think that's hard for people to keep track of, right? That there are these attacks that the federal government, direct attacks of the federal government on states, and they're administering, right, of elections. Talk a little bit about that, about what they are attempting to do to the states, right, in this moment.
Sure. So as far as the states go and what they're doing, like you said, it's a direct attempt, in my opinion, to bully states into giving over that voter roll information. As we've seen, I'm here in Michigan, as you stated before. We had something just happen here in 2025. Our Secretary of State's office was subpoenaed for those exact things for our voter files. Mm-hmm. They fought it, and it just happened just as of this week. The case was actually just dismissed. For those exact, right. For a number of reasons, actually, because it doesn't make sense to have that additional data. It's unnecessary, and the laws that they try to use to pull it out to say that it's needed. It's just not true.
Right.
It's not true.
Well, and so that's a new development in Michigan, but I think that we've also seen the sort of courts say in other places too, like, no, you can't have those voter files. What is it that they're trying to get? What is it they're trying to get? When they're suing the states for their voter files, what is the information that they are actually trying to collect?
What we believe is that they are possibly trying to create a federal database, a federal voting database. I think that is the overall plan, to eventually have all the data into one database. But we also know that databases aren't everything, that information can be misconstrued or lost or even stolen in a lot of situations. As you've seen, there's been a lot of breaches with information into large databases in the past couple of years. So what we think is, of course, they are trying to make voting federal and take it from the states, mm-hmm. which is something that we don't want to happen and that we're working to keep from happening.
Well, and it is in violation of the Constitution, right?
The biggest part. That's the biggest part.
I mean, it's just so I'm laughing. It's not funny, right? But it is such a blatant violation. I'm not a lawyer, but it's such a blatant violation. States administer elections. And this sort of idea that, again, we know what the MEGA Act, right, is attempting to do. And I think it's important that we try and connect dots on some of these things, because they seem oftentimes could be seen as just happening in kind of isolation from one another, that the Justice Department is doing this and Congress is doing that and the court is doing this. And they're not, right? Like, these are not things that are just separate kind of shots in the dark, right? They are all connected.
Exactly. It is a part of a much bigger plan, as we've seen what happened in Georgia. Like, we think this is all part of a big playbook. We're just seeing the hand early, and we're knowing what's about to happen, and we're trying to prepare for it as best we can.
Well, speaking of preparing for it, and I'm glad that you brought that up. We talked on the show about how the FBI went in and seized the ballots from 2020 2020 in Fulton County, just went into the warehouse and took them. And then
6 years later.
6 years later. And then the president of the United States started talking about the other places where they were going to do the same thing. And remarkably, shockingly, they are the same states that on election night in 2020 that he was saying the vote was rigged in these places, right? People remember the video out of Detroit, right, when folks showed up at the voting center where they were counting the votes to say, no, this was rigged. Let us in. So we're talking about, right, the same election denying lies from 6 years ago are what are driving actual investigations right now. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. You said it great. Basically, this administration's goal has been clear from the beginning. We've seen it starting years ago. If the results don't go our way, we're going to make up lies, and we're going to see what sticks.
Right.
That's just been the program for a couple of years.
Right. And the problem with all of that, I think, and we'll talk about this when we come forward, maybe, the problem with all of that is that it didn't stick 6 years ago. Like there were court cases where they lost. There was Rudy Giuliani, like dripping, black ink, sweating down his or hair dye, right, in front of, Four Seasons, whatever, right? These things lost in the courts, and here we are potentially relitigating them. But when we come forward, we're going to continue this conversation with Ashia Brown, the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local Action. Stay with us.
You're part of the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire on KBLA Talk 1580.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs. Still battling a thirsty lawn that guzzles water and drains your wallet? Let LADWP turn that patch of grass into a gorgeous drought-smart garden for free. We're talking a full California-friendly landscape makeover designed and installed by pros at no cost to you. That's right, LADWP does the work, you get the upgrade. Ready to transform your yard and save big? Visit ladwp.com/leap. That's ladwp.com/LEAP.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned, homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized, the families who watched their inheritance disappear, the wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to your mommy like that.
Unlike your mama, we can handle your black talk on the Black Pack with Adrianne Shropshire.
We are continuing our conversation with Ashia Brown, the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local Action. We were talking a little bit before the break about, sort of the connecting the dots, right, on some of these really dangerous anti-democratic, anti-voter, pieces of legislation and policy that are moving across the Trump administration. Everything from, demanding and suing states, right, to get access to their voter files, to your point, to create this national, voter database that they can do whatever they want to with, the pieces of legislation that are moving through Congress. And also you talked about how, the courts just ruled it for Michigan anyway that the handing over the voter files isn't about to be a thing, right? But when we think about just regular folks, right, in states, right, we think about if we think about voters in Michigan, how will these things play out for people, right? Because sometimes I think when we think about the potential impact of this, and when we know that millions and millions of voters would be impacted by the SAVE Act, right? Folks who no longer have their marriage license, right? But they got married and changed their name, or folks who never had a birth certificate, right? People like the 51% of Americans that don't have a passport, right? We know that folks lots of people will be impacted. But if I'm looking at it, I'm a voter, and sometimes it's easy to say, well, that's happening nationally, right? Like that's happening in D.C. or something. What will it look like for voters in states if these policies actually move forward? What are the real implications for me if I'm a voter in Detroit and these things actually start to move?
Oh, absolutely. So these policies would disenfranchise millions of eligible voters. For example, you named some of the communities, but there are so many more. Working class Americans in general, if you have a lower income, you're far less likely to have things like a passport. So that would make hard proving your citizenship a little bit more difficult, and it disproportionately would impact the working class. You said married women. That is a huge one because their birth certificate does not match up with your ID. That is really, really important. Then you got to think of members of the LGBTQ plus community, particularly trans Americans. They have gone through a process of changing their legal names, so their birth certificate would no longer match, right? And then again, rural voters, millions of them rely on that voter registration being remotely, and online voter registration and mail-in voter registration. That would take away that for all of them, and then create so many more obstacles. So you're seeing obstacles in front of that, and then think about the people, especially in recent years with the climate changing, victims of natural disasters. It would make it very, very hard for them. Imagine if you had a hurricane or a wildfire, looking for your passport or your original birth certificate, it's probably lost or damaged. Members of the military in Michigan, I know we have tons of tribal citizenship who they don't have a normal the same state ID that we all use. They have tribal IDs, and it looks different, and then they some don't have birth certificates. So it would affect a lot of individuals, but specifically individuals of color and disenfranchised communities would be affected the most.
I wanted you to just sort of break that down, because it isn't just like an intellectual policy discussion that we're having here. It means that folks who've been voting their entire lives and come from families where generations of folks voted their entire lives will no longer be able to access the ballot unless they pay. Right, which was a thing that we thought we got rid of, right, in the 1960s. It's essentially a poll tax that if you have, and then you may have to pay for multiple things, right, in order to be able to get access to prove that you're a citizen. I was saying in the last with our last guest, Nadine Smith from Color of Change, that I feel like if my family members are listed in the 1860 census, that I don't need to show you anything. Right? You and you have access to that, so I don't need to give it to you. right? Like you actually have that.
Right.
But what can folks do? I mean, I think that this is the other piece that we talked about a little bit with Nadine. There's a lot of things coming out at us, but there are also things that we can do. So when you all are, advocating with your partners, with individuals in the states around the country, in Michigan, where you are, what are you saying that folks? What are you telling folks? Like, here are actions that you can take to protect the electoral process.
Yeah, so some actions that every individual can take is you need to call on Congress to oppose. Make sure that they're focusing on the real issues. Call your senator. The SAVE Act and the new iterations of it, the SAVE, the MEGA, all of it are just latest examples of these the string of schemes that are trying to make voting more difficult for citizens. So you need to get out and say something. And then at All Voting is Local, our state teams are on the ground year round, trying to see what makes sense, working with these election administrators, hearing what's going on with them, seeing what kind of support we can add to them as well. And then we're sharing different resources with our state teams and election officials to try to outline legal procedures, because you can imagine being an election official and, for example, in Georgia, if the FBI or another federal law enforcement came in, sometimes you don't know how to react to that. Yeah. You don't know what is the law and what you have to provide to them and what you don't. So we want, if it does come to other states, how we think that is a game plan, and it will eventually go to other states. We want to make sure that our election officials here are ready and prepared and understand what procedures they have to follow with the authority and law enforcement that they deal with. But again, back to what everyday citizens can do is you have to speak up and make your voice heard.
Yeah, and so that is, again, I said that the House passed the SAVE Act, this version of the SAVE Act, sent it over to the Senate. The Senate is going to vote next week. So if you have not had an opportunity to reach out to your senators and let them know what you think, then you should do that. You should also reach out to your House members and let them know what you think, because there will be many of these coming down the pipeline, and they need to vote for their constituents. I'm struck by what you're saying about the way in which you all are engaging with local election officials and helping them prepare for what might be coming, because this is a very different time, obviously, right? Where, what we just saw in Georgia, having to prepare for the federal government coming in and saying, give us your ballots, right? And taking them away. But we're also hearing Trump administration officials say things like, we're going to send ICE agents, right, to every polling place in the country, right? Now, I don't think they actually can do that. They don't have enough ICE agents to do all of that. But the point is still the point, right? They'll send it to the places where they send them to the places where they think they have to, right? Where they know that they can't win. Places like Detroit, places like Philadelphia, places like Milwaukee. How are you all talking to folks about that potential, right? The potential for federal monitors and federal law enforcement monitors in a moment like this?
Yeah, we are doing the same thing, sharing resources, working with state teams. We are prepping, and we are trying to prep individuals. We're trying to get more poll monitors trained with what we call de-escalation training, so that when they see these officers, they know how to de-escalate these situations. And again, in certain communities, we know how we feel about law enforcement in those communities. We want to make sure that those individuals are prepared for if it does. We're trying to think of when it does happen, not if it does happen, but when it does happen, making sure they have the tools equipped. And again, the biggest thing is knowing the laws, knowing what has to be turned over, understanding what sensitive data they have the right to protect and what they do need to turn over. So we just want to provide everyone with the proper tools so that they can advocate for themselves.
Yeah, this is critical work that you all are doing at All Voting is Local Action. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about both how you all are preparing, how you're preparing partners in states, and then just also your sort of take on where we are and what is happening. So thank you, Ashia. I appreciate you. That's Ashia Brown, the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local Action. And when we come forward, we're going to talk about the topic of the weekend, and that is not the NBA All-Star Weekend, but actually love. And we're going to be joined by Jackie Lewis, the senior minister and public theologian at Middle Seat Church in New York. Stay with us.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with VIN News Now. Saturday marks 8 years since the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Broward County schools paused at 10:17 a.m. following a message from Black Superintendent Dr. Howard Hepburn to honor the 17 victims.
We acknowledge the resiliency and strength of our families, students, employees.
Portraits are on display at Pine Trails Park ahead of the annual remembrance. HGTV has canceled Rehab Addict and fired host Nicole Curtis after a video surfaced showing her using a racial slur on set. The clip appeared the same day season 9 was set to return. HGTV called the comment offensive